AudieoVisual! This is my new level MZBZCZ, which I just released today on stream. Big hype. I've been building it for a couple months now, and it turned out pretty well, I think. It's a sequel to my level that I released in November of last year named MYBYCY, which it's not very good, you know? Yeah, I mean, for the time, especially since my most recent level was Hyper Nano, this wasn't that bad, and obviously it was only made in like 2 days, but still, this level's not great. This wave part is easily the best part, which I still think kind of holds up, and it was a little bit hard to top that in the remake, but yeah, in general, this level is not very good. However, I kind of liked the vibe that MYBYCY had, so I wanted to take that vibe and make something with it that was actually good, so I made MZBZCZ. I started a couple months ago at this point. I think I started back in like August, and yeah, already you can see this is a lot better, which was my goal. My goal with MZBZCZ was really to just take the ideas presented in MYBYCY and build on them now that I'm a better creator and I could, you know, more effectively represent the ideas I had in mind, which I think I accomplished with this level. But yeah, my plan for this video, real quick, is to just do a quick developer's commentary on MZBZCZ, and then I'll showcase the whole level. It's gonna be a great time. You know how it goes. Anyway, the concept behind this part in the original was to just have like a weird color scheme that was like really bright and felt like foggy, which obviously is why I have, in both this one and the originals, I have giant gradients of the background color on the sides. And in this one, I have like moving glow fog over it, which I think helps create that vibe even better. Also, I'd like to say, even though MZBZCZ is technically like a remake slash sequel of MYBYCY, it uses the second half of the same song, so it's like, it's not totally either or, but it's very similar. Then we get into this part, which, oh my lord, is so much. I feel like this part has the most improvement from the original MYBYCY. It is, actually, the waves are more spread out, so it doesn't look so goofy. The freaking background is one of the craziest effects I've ever made. There's the gosh dang triggerless scaling effect with a inversion effect over it, which I think looks really cool. I was pretty proud of that, still am. So yeah, in general, I think this is probably the part with the biggest improvement over the original. Just because, I mean, look at this. This is an actual good-looking part compared to the freaking ugly part in MYBYCY that this is remaking, you know? Then we have this part, which is the wave, which was the best part in the original MYBYCY. So going into it, it was a little bit intimidating to try and match that, or at least match that and try to get better than it. But first things I did was I made this transition, which I think is really cool looking. It took me like 2 hours. I might put some sketches of it I have on screen because I have a lot of sketches in it in my notebook. But yeah, I think that transition is pretty cool. I have the same like wave opening effect thing too. And then I redid the designs. I added pulsing objects over it. I made the background a little bit more dynamic, I feel like. And then there's this part, which is just like a straight corridor with obstacles and a cool wave over it, which I think is pretty neat. So yeah, once again, I think I achieved that sense of improvement with this part. I think I did that with the whole level, to be fair. But, you know, some parts more than others. Now we get into where MYBYCY actually ends, and this level doesn't. So we have this robot part, which normally this would be the end of MYBYCY. So everything after this part is original, and this robot part in particular, I freaking love. This transition, I'm so proud of. I think that looks really, really cool. Then we get into this part. I'm not quite sure how I feel about this part. I mean, I think it's fine. Like, I do think it's good, but it's definitely very different to the rest of the level. I had the idea for this part in mind since I began the level. You know, that's why I wanted to build to the end of the song so much. Speaking of which, let's check it out. How about we? So this part, as you can see, kind of closes itself in a lot, which I think is really cool considering the song quiets down so much. Got some repeated gameplay. You know me and my repeated gameplay, dude. You gotta have it. Anyways, there's actually a little bit more I want to say about this part. Firstly, this background here, it's a little bit hard to see, which was on purpose because it's supposed to feel, you know, very secluded, this part in general, but you can see it if you look hard enough. And that was to pay homage to what MYBYCY was inspired by originally, and that was MYBYCY by Woolsey. Classic level, super laggy, iconic, you know, literally iconic banger from our childhoods, and that was the main inspiration for MYBYCY, so I figured it'd be right to pay, you know, tribute to it in the last part of the MYBYCY levels. I don't know what the frick to call it. This part was kind of supposed to look like a sunset. I mean, the whole level in general has like a vague theming of being on the sun and then being on like a cold part of the sun. So that was definitely, there was some vague theming, nothing specific, but like if this level were to be given a theme applied to it, it would probably be like you're on the sun and then like you're not on the sun, or I don't know, the sun goes dark or something. It's vague, you know? It's up to viewer interpretation, quite literally. You start out in a really dusty, kind of atmospheric, like almost lonely part. That's where, and it starts out with a lot of yellow. And then, like the original MYBYCY, it cuts right into a dark purple-blue part with very little yellow except for the saws. Then it cuts into this part with significantly more yellow. Then it cuts to even more yellow where the ground is yellow. Then it cuts to all yellow, right? So the yellow is slowly being reintroduced after it turns quote-unquote nighttime, for lack of a better term to describe it. And then after the yellow gets fully reintroduced, you have this part, where actually it's kind of bizarre. It doesn't make sense, but it's like the sun is destroying itself and it's just turning into fire or something. I don't know. Like I said, the theming is vague. Interpret this part however you want, you know what I'm saying? The interpretation of this part is obviously extremely vague, but despite that, the heavy glow fog comes back, the borders shrink around you, and it gets harder and harder to see, which is obviously, you know, pretty similar to this part. But yeah, in general, like I said, the whole level's theming is vague, so interpret this part as you will. But yeah, that just about covers it for the developers, the very quick and also done on live stream developers commentary of MZBZCZ, which I think is pretty cool, you know? I think it's probably feature worthy. With that being said, thank you for watching and enjoy the full showcase of the level.